Hello heart seekers and nature lovers, welcome to another video from the Miskayani and Medicine YouTube channel. Today I want to make a short video about this beautiful incense called Palo Santo. My name is Karen Weinman and I am a Pampamesayoq trained in the mountain lineages by the Keros who live high in the Andean mountains of Peru. And yes, today I want to talk about Palo Santo. In a way, what I'm going to talk about I think pertains to most of how we as Westerners treat nature. But I'm going to focus particularly on Palo Santo because I don't think people are aware that it's becoming endangered and could disappear. And you know, Palo Santo has become kind of the latest fashion in the alternative worlds, that when we want incense to cleanse, that we grab it and we use it, and we are unconscious of where it comes from, how it got to us, what it went through to get to us. And I think it's time for me, I need to speak up and to start creating awareness about this really beautiful incense. So when we're wanting to smudge ourselves, when we are wanting to smudge a space, create sacred space, most of us will grab an incense of some kind. Yes, most of us will use white sage. I mean, there's all kinds of herbs and incenses that we can use. But in the last few years, Palo Santo has become louder and louder and more marketed because, of course, as it's become more fashionable with the alternative world and with Westerners, the people in South America are realizing that there's a demand for it, and because of that demand, it is starting to endanger this incense. So I want to tell you a little bit about where Palo Santo comes from so that you can understand and be more conscious about what you're using and why you are using it to smudge. And do you want to do this to nature? It's abusive, yes? So first of all, let's talk about Palo Santo. The smell is so exquisite. So Palo Santo is a tree, yes? And what most people don't know about trees is that in order to reach their full potential, trees have to grow to their fullest, their highest and their biggest, yes? That is how they serve the world, is when they are at their full potential, yes? In our Western world, we cut them down before they even get there, and many of them get cut, you know, in the most unprofessional ways before they even get to half their lifetimes for firewood and for creating furniture, etc., etc. And of course, some trees, their purpose is to serve us, and you know, we can build that relationship with them. But at the end of the day, most trees are meant to grow to their fullest potential, because when they're at their fullest potential is when they support us the most by rooting and working with many energies that we are unaware of in the Western world. Now, Palo Santo takes that to another level completely, yes? So, Palo Santo grows to its fullest potential in about 90 to 100 years, right? Let me say that again. It takes almost 100 years for Palo Santo to grow to its fullest potential. When it reaches that fullest potential, it then falls over and it starts to decompose. And in that decomposing, that breaking down, that wood getting older, that wood interacting with the earth and with Pachamama, yes, it starts to turn into what we know to be beautiful smelling Palo Santo in its highest consciousness energy. Yes, it is at that point that shamans who know what they are doing harvest that wood and then use it in ceremony. That is the cycle of Palo Santo. Now, most people talk about Palo Santo as, oh, it's a cleansing incense, and it is not about that. All right, Palo Santo has reached its highest consciousness excuse me, And when we light it and we have that beautiful, beautiful aroma and smoke around us, it raises our consciousness and the consciousness of the space that we're using it for. It raises all of it. That is subtly different to cleansing. And when it comes to cleansing, something like a white sage is fantastic for cleaning away and cleaning out, yes? So this fallacy around Palo Santo is cleanser is not accurate. It is not 100% of the truth, right? It's about raising consciousness. So we need to be aware that when we want to cleanse, in order to save Palo Santo, we should be using other herbs. White sage is just one of them. There are many, many others that we can use, yes? All right, now, because it is becoming the latest fashion in the alternative world, to cleanse ourselves and cleanse our spaces, Westerners are buying it more and more and more. Palo Santo is starting to come out in incense sticks. It's starting to come out in essential oils. It's starting to come out in all formats, yes? And while we get greedier for Palo Santo, what's happening? The South Americans are realizing that there is a demand for it. And so they are starting to harvest the trees earlier and earlier and earlier. And they are wiping out plantations, forests of Palo Santo that have been growing naturally for 90 to 100 years, yes? So what has fallen and is decaying is the Palo Santo we want, but there is less and less of that because what's happening is human beings in South America are cutting the trees down before they fall over naturally, but also cutting them younger and younger and younger, yes? Now, for us to get a new harvest, you know, they might be planting new ones, but we need 90 to 100 years before it is appropriate for it to fall over and for us to have it. So in other words, they're cutting the only trees that are available on the planet right now for our generations. And what I have heard is that they are starting to cut trees that are 60 years old, 50. I'm hearing these awful, awful stories coming out of Peru. Yes. And it's a chicken and egg story, right? Because they know there's a demand. And Palo Santo is getting more expensive, so they can make more money. And we are wanting it more. We're demanding it. And so the cycle is going around and around. And while we go through the cycle, the trees are starting to disappear. So please take it into consideration when you use Palo Santo. Ask yourself, number one, am I using it for the right reason? Most people do not need to use Palo Santo. We can use white sage to clear and other things. You know, there's witch hazel, there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful incenses out there, yes, that you can use. Go and do some research. Find out what it's needed for. These days, I think shamans are probably the only ones that need Palo Santo because they know what they're doing and they work with the nature being of Palo Santo, yes? And there are other ways we can raise our vibration. Andean medicine, and I'm not talking about plant medicine, I'm talking about Andean medicine that the mountain lineages use, where we're working with Pachamama, where we're working with nature directly, can raise frequency. So ask yourself the next time you go to use it, do you need this? Ask yourself, yes? Number one. Number two, when you go to buy it, where are you buying it from? How did that shop get that? How did that supplier get that? Where did it come from? Now most places can't tell you. They'll tell you a story because they want to market it. It's like crystals. They've come up with all these fallacies to sell it to Westerners to make money. So you really have to be clear when you're buying it, where did it come from? And if you are not sure, you need to tell the shop owners so that we start to wake up suppliers to get them to question where they're coming from. Because if we slow down the demand for Palo Santo that is not authentic, hopefully we can slow the cycle down of it being harvested in South America. Somewhere we need to change the cycle. Now, of course, it's really, really hard these days for anyone to tell us where it came from. So I would be careful about buying it, full stop. Yes? The piece that I have in my hand, amongst the other few pieces that I have that I bought many, many years ago, I was very lucky. I found a woman who actually harvested it herself and traveled to a market where shamans would buy. And I bought from her. At the time, I actually didn't know this, what was behind Palo Santo, but I asked her where it was from. She told me and I bought, and I have been using it slowly and in tiny, tiny little bits and pieces here and there over the years, and may it last me for my lifetime so I never need to buy it again. But that's how I would buy it. That's how careful I am with Palo Santo. So be careful. Think about what you're doing when you use Palo Santo. And of course, that goes for all aspects of nature. Yes? I mean, white sage that is grown shamanically by Native Americans is also going through the same problem. Yes? It's very hard to find very sacred white sage these days. People are growing it anywhere and then selling it as sacred things. Ask yourself, yes, this is capitalism in a shamanic alternative world. Think about what you're buying, how you're using it, where has it come from. Find integrity in what you're doing, because if you are using something that is abused, its energy is going to be in there and it is affecting you. So think about it. We want to raise consciousness when we use something on ourselves. Yes, we want to raise consciousness of the collective and of the planet. We want to take care of nature. So think before you use Palo Santo, and when you interact with anything that comes from nature, ask questions and inform others of what you're learning. Please help me to spread this so that we can start to protect the most profound offerings that nature brings us, because at some point it's either going to disappear or it's going to be like tobacco. People smoke cigarettes not thinking that tobacco used to be a sacred plant, and there is so much abuse going on in the nature world. Think about these things, yes? I hope that this got you thinking. Don't buy into what I say. Go and do some research. Find out more. Become aware, yes? And if you want to learn more about how to work with these nature beings, with these energies, with Pachamama, then come and join me at Miskayani Medicine, either via the YouTube or my emails or Facebook. Come and join me for some workshops and start to tune in to the world of living energy and what it is truly about, and how it is here not only to serve you, but how you can serve it and become one with the natural cosmos again. Thanks for listening. Ciao for now.